Alrighty. Well, welcome everyone. This is the admin training for Avesis. As I was mentioning earlier, we are going to start with the employee portion and make our way to the admin portion. Alrighty. So there are some documents and some videos that I will be provided after this training. If you are watching this recording, feel free to ask the admin for those documents and those short how-to videos. Okay. All right. So the very first thing we want to go over is this document I have open here on the page, which is Avesis self-service to NovaTime. Okay. Basically, this document explains to the employee or the person using the system how do they get from Avesis self-service to the timekeeper. Okay. So as you guys can see here, your employees or admins will have to log into the Avesis self-service. Okay, using their ID and their password. Once they do that, they should have a timekeeper tab. Okay, that timekeeper tab, once they click on it, basically it redirects them to their employee account. Regardless if they're an admin or a supervisor, you guys will be directed to your employee account. Once in there, you'll be able to go into your admin or supervisor account. Okay, but everybody on the system will first reach their employee account before getting to their admin or supervisor. Okay, once they click on that timekeeper tab, they basically get redirected to our system. Okay, in our system, as you guys can see here, we are currently logged in as an employee. We only have two main tabs, and we have a few sub tabs under them. Okay, so as an employee, you guys can basically punch, you guys can request time off, and you guys can submit your timesheet. Okay, those are the three main things your employees can do on the system. Other than that, everything else on the system is basically for them to view only. Okay, so how your employees will punch on the system, it's fairly simple. All they will have to do is once they click that timekeeper tab, there should be a punch button here. Okay, your employee will just simply click that punch button. Once they do that, the system will automatically punch them in. Okay, now if they're punching out for the day, again, it's the same thing. They'll go into the system and hit the punch button. It'll punch them out. Okay. If they're going for a lunch break or they're coming back from a lunch break, they'll still use that punch button. Okay. So regardless of what they're doing, if they're clocking in, if they're clocking out, clocking in for a lunch, clocking out for lunch, they will use that punch button. Okay. As soon as they do that, the system should automatically show them their punch on the timesheet. Okay. So as you guys can see here, 421 at 11:17, I actually punched in. Okay. So besides punching, your employees have a few summaries on the bottom here. The first summary being a weekly summary here. Basically what it does is it breaks out the timesheet per week. Okay, so it basically tells the employee for the date range of 4/18 to 4/24, this is your regular hours, your overtime hours, and your total double time if they do get any double time. Okay, the next summary down below is your timesheet summary. Now the timesheet summary basically, it's sort of the same as a weekly summary. The main difference is instead of breaking out per week, it breaks out per earning code. Okay, so earning codes being work hours, vacation time, PTO, sick, jury duty, bereavement, all those are pay codes. If the employee has that on his timesheet for the pay period, the timesheet summary will break it out by those codes and tell him how many hours he did per code. Okay, and then the last one being an accrual summary. The accrual summary, basically what that is it gives the employee his available accrual balance along with the most recent transaction. Okay, so the most recent transaction can be the employee using time or the system accruing time. Okay, so those are two generally the two transactions the employee will see. A third transaction can be you guys, the admins, adding time manually for the employee on their accrual balance. Okay. Other than that, besides being able to punch, the employees can submit their timesheet from this page. Now, this is optional. Your employees don't have to do this. Okay, this is just if you guys are going to enforce this on your employees. Okay, basically, you do not want to have the employees submit their timesheet until the pay period is over. The reason you don't want them submitting the timesheet before is because if they do, this punch button goes away. Okay, so if your employee submits the timesheet by accident, the punch button goes away, which means your employees don't have the ability to punch in or punch out for the rest of the pay period. Okay, in order for them to be able to punch in and punch out, they would have to let you or their supervisor know that they have submitted their timesheet by accident, and at that point, the supervisor can then go in and reopen up their timesheet. Okay. Right. So that's how your employees will submit their timesheet. Again, you don't want to. This is one thing you want to tell them. When they are on the system, don't submit the timesheet until the pay period is over, or until they're actually done with the time for this pay period. Okay. So besides that, on the timesheet, your employees do have the ability to view different pay periods. So by default, the system will show them the current pay period. Okay. They can go to the last pay period, which is the previous one. They can go to the next pay period, which is the one that's coming up. Okay. They can go to this week, last week, which basically gives them the time for this week only or last week only, the punches. User-defined date range. The user-defined date range allows the employee to view a specific date range up to 5 weeks at a time. Okay. They can't do more than that. If they try to do more, the system will reject them. It'll say it can't do more than 5 weeks. Okay. And then the last one is a user-defined pay period. The way that works is it allows the employee to go back to a pay period he no longer has access to. Okay, which means more than 2 pay periods ago. He has the ability to go to 2 pay periods back. Okay, so that's basically the timesheet. As you can see, your employees, out of the 3 options we mentioned, 2 of them they can do here. They can submit their timesheet from here, and they can punch from here. Okay, going on to the next tab, which is schedules. The schedules, if you guys are going to be using schedules in the future, okay, this is where your employees will be viewing their schedules from. Okay, by default, again, this is another page that goes by current pay period. So this one here gives the employee the schedule by the current pay period. They do have a drop down where they can change that. They can do last pay period if they want to see the last pay period schedule. They can do next pay period if they want to see their future schedules. User-defined date range if they want to see, for example, the whole month schedule, or a user-defined pay period where they can go on to 2 pay periods ago or the next 2 pay periods beyond. Okay, going on to the next tab, which is accruals. Accruals just basically gives the employee his accrual balance. Okay, not only does this give him his accrual balance, it also gives the employee his history of accruals, which means every time he used the time on the system, every time the system accrued it for him, and every time someone added some time manually for him. Okay, so it'll give him the full history of his accruals on this page. Okay, and then the last tab under the attendance tab is a history tab. The history tab does consist of 4 sub-tabs under it. We have annual, monthly, calendar detail, and calendar summary. The annual calendar basically gives the employee his calendar by year. Okay, now what this means is it goes by his timesheet, so whatever's on the timesheet. So anything in green is work hours, which means that the employee used work hours on April 4th, 5th, 6th, and April 21st. Okay, if the employee had mixed pay codes, for example, if he had work hours on one day and vacation on that same day, it's mixed pay codes. He has more than one pay code on that day. If he did have that, instead of being green, it'll be gray. So it'll be this color, basically letting you know or letting the employee know that he used more than one pay code on that day. Okay, if the employee uses vacation on one of the days or jury duty bereavement, the system will start color coding them. Okay, so he'll see the color codes on the left-hand side. Okay, again, this is per year. The next tab is per month. So for example, let's say your employee uses more than one code on April 21st. If he wanted to see which codes he used, he would click on the monthly calendar and the system will tell him here which codes he used. Okay. Going on to the calendar detail. The calendar detail is like a small timesheet area. Okay. The main difference between the calendar detail and the timesheet area is your employees, 1, can't punch from here, and 2 is the date range can be a lot larger than 5 weeks. This one can be up to 1 year. So basically what that means is the employee can see his time data from January 1st, 2016 to December 31st, 2016. Okay. What he does here is he changes the date range, then hits apply filter, and the system will give him the whole time from that pay period. Okay. As I mentioned, your employees don't have the ability to punch here or submit their timesheet. It's simply for view only. Okay. And then the last tab is calendar summary. Calendar summary uses a date range you use in calendar detail. Okay. The difference between these two is it breaks out per day of the week. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then it breaks out per codes. during that date range. So if your employee used work hours, jury duty, bereavement, PTO, vacation, sick time, it'll break out per code here, and it'll tell you how many times he used that code per day, and then how many hours he's used it for each of that day of the week for that pay period. Okay, so that basically wraps up the attendance tab. We're going to move on to the scheduler tab here. Okay, the scheduler tab just has one tab under it. This one tab basically gives employee the ability to request time off. Okay, so it's a three-step process. Okay, so what that means is your employees basically follow a three-step process to submit time off. Okay, so the way it works is your employee basically first names the request and selects the start and end dates. Then he defines the amount of hours, and then he submits it. Okay, so the first thing before going into the request is you need to name the request. Okay, so basically put some sort of title on the request. Okay, so all we're going to do is put NA. Your employees have the ability to put a title, for example, like vacation time. It's their birthday, so they want to take the day off. So on here they'll put birthday. Okay, whatever they like to put on the title. Okay, if they don't want to put anything specific, they just put NA. Okay, basically the system needs to see something in the name the request part in order for them to go on to the next step. Okay, once they do that, your employees then have the ability to select which request are they doing. Okay, just keep in mind this is my test employee, so he probably doesn't have access to all the codes your employees have access to. Okay, so sick and vacation are the ones he has access to. I believe you guys do have personal and PTO as well. So just keep in mind this is a test employee, so he probably doesn't have those codes on there just yet. Okay, so the way it works is your employee clicks the drop down. They'll pick which time off are they doing, whether that be vacation, sick time, personal, or just regular PTO. Okay, so let's see if we refresh it here. Put NA. Okay, so as you can see, your employees have the ability to pick personal, PTO, sick, vacation. Now, I know some of these codes, you guys are, they're kind of history already, so they really don't have it. It's either they have a balance or they don't. They're not going to accrue anymore. So if the employee, for example, let's say personal, okay, let's say your personal is just the balance they have, they don't accrue it anymore. So if they do have a balance, on the right-hand side, the system will tell them the current balance. So for my test employee, he really doesn't have a balance, okay, which means what's going to happen is when he tries to request time off, he's going to get rejected, okay, because he doesn't really have a balance. Okay, so as you can see on here, if your employees, all your employees will have vacation, sick, and those other codes, but if they don't have a balance, the system will say, I'm sorry, we can't let you don't have a balance. Okay. So what we're going to do is instead of picking personal, we're going to pick PTO. Okay, since my employee does have a PTO balance, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to pick PTO here. Okay, once your employee selects the correct, puts the title, selects the correct request type, the next step is to put the start and end date. Okay, now if they're only taking one day off, for example, they're only taking tomorrow off, Friday, they would put the 22nd to the 22nd. Okay, and that's one day. If your employee was taking a whole week off, he would have put the whole week here. So the 19th through the 23rd. Okay, that's assuming your employee was taking the whole week off. Okay, if he's only taking one day, he'll put that one day as a start and end date. But for this example, I'm going to put the 26th, which is next week, all the way to the 29th. Okay, which is Friday. So I'm going to put the 25th, sorry. Okay, so as you can see here, the system refreshes and it says I have 100 hours of balance. Okay, it says as of right now, my request is 40 hours. The reason it's 40 hours is because by default, the system puts 8 hours for Monday to Friday. Okay, each day you request, the system will automatically put 8 hours for you. Okay. Now, the good thing about this is your employee has the ability to change the amount of hours he wants to take each day. So the way he does that is he actually goes into the hours column for the day and puts the amount of hours he wants to take per day. Okay. So for example, if he wants to only take 4 hours on Monday, since he is going to come in on Monday, work 4 hours, and the other 4 he's going to leave, he'll put the amount of hours he's going to take here. Okay. But for this example, we're just going to say he's taking the whole week off. Okay. So once your employees have put the whole week, the next step is to save and submit it. Okay. Before we do that, the bottom left-hand side does have a notes area, so your employees do have the ability to enter in a note for you. Again, that this is optional. Okay, the notes area is optional. They don't have to do that, but it's there if they do want to put a note for you. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Save and Submit. Okay, at this time, their supervisor, as soon as they hit Save and Submit, will receive an email. Okay, the supervisor of this employee will receive an email basically letting them know, hey, your employee has submitted a time off request. The email will look something like this. Okay, so this is the actual email from the system. Okay, so it houses, the employee 999 used PTO for 25th through the 29th, and this is how many hours he requested per day. Okay, so that's one notification your supervisors will receive when their employees submit time off requests. Okay. Righty. So before going on to the admin part, I do want to go over these 3 options real quick here. These are available actions to your employee. The first one being cancel the request. So just like the name states, that basically allows the employee to cancel this request. Okay, so if the employee does want to cancel the whole request, he'll hit this little icon here and it'll basically cancel the request. The only way your employees do have the ability to cancel the request is if 1, it has not been approved, and 2, if the day has not passed. Okay, what we mean by day is the day he actually requested. Okay, so for example, if I try to submit this cancellation next week, because the 25th already passed, it's not going to let me because the day already passed. Okay, the next one is edit the request. Now, edit the request basically allows the employee to edit the amount of hours he requested each day. Okay, so if your employee requested the whole week off and he doesn't want to take Friday off, this will not work. Okay, edit the request only allows you to edit the amount of hours he's taking each day. It does not allow the employee to remove a day from the request. Okay, if the employee does want to take one of the days out of his request, he will basically have to do one of 2 things: cancel the whole request and resubmit a new one with the correct days, or 2, notify the supervisor that he does not want to take, either Friday or Monday off, only Tuesday through Friday. So at that point, the supervisor can remove the other day and approve the other days. Okay, and then the last one being send a reminder. Send a reminder is just basically to send a reminder to the supervisor that this request is still pending. Okay, so what it does is when you click on it here, it basically opens up a little window where you can put a message. You put the message on there for the supervisor, and basically what it does is it triggers an email to the supervisor letting them know, hey, you have a reminder of this employee. Okay, and that basically wraps up the employee part. So at this time, we are going to move to the admin part of the system. Okay, now, if you are an admin on the system, you will have a drop down on the top right-hand side. Okay, so as you guys can see here, my test employee has a drop down on the top right here. That's basically letting me know, hey, you have access to another account, which is my admin account. Okay, so if you guys want to get to there, what you guys would do is you click the drop down and hit my team. Okay. Okay, if you guys remember, I submitted a time off request. This is the second way you get notified of an employee. Okay, if you click OK, it's going to basically let you know, hey, you have some messages that are unread. This is just basically another way of the system telling you you have a time off request that needs approval. Okay, so not only will you get an email, you will also get notified as soon as you log into your admin or supervisor account that your employee has submitted a time off request. Okay, now, if your employees do not submit a request or you don't have any messages pending, the first page you will reach as an admin or supervisor is the dashboard page. Okay, the dashboard page is basically the first page as an admin or supervisor that you guys will reach that will basically help you maintain your employees. Okay, basically this tab here has gadgets that you can enable that will keep track of employees. Okay, some gadgets keep track of missing punches. Other gadgets keep track of time off requests. Okay, other gadgets keep track of where the employee's timesheet is currently at. Is it still open? Has it been submitted? Has it been approved by the supervisor, or is it even at payroll status already? Okay, all those gadgets here, basically, they're shortcuts for you to keep track of your employees. That way you guys aren't digging through your employees. Okay. So the way it works is, let's go through the gadgets we currently have right now available on the dashboard. Okay, so the first gadget being the exception summary. Okay, the exception summary gadget, basically what it does is it keeps track of missing punches. Okay, as of right now, you guys aren't using really schedules. So the good thing that this gadget is it keeps track of missing punches. So as of right now, one of my employees does have a missing punch, which is my test employee. Okay, this gadget will tell you how many employees have missing punches. It won't tell you how many missing punches you have. It tells you how many employees trigger that exception. So what that means is each employee can basically trigger the missing punch exception 4 times. The system here will just tell you, hey, this employee triggered it. Okay, it's just going to give you an employee account. Okay, so the good thing about each gadget on the system is you can interact with it, which means you can click on this gadget here, you can click on the exception, and it'll take you directly to the employee or employees that trigger that exception. Okay, so my employee that triggered the missed punch is my test employee. Okay, anything in the red box is a missing punch. Now, the reason I only have one punch here, one missing punch, but it looks like I have 2, is because if you guys remember, I punched in today. Today is not considered a missing punch. Why? Because today's not over yet. Okay, once the day is over, so once we cross into Friday, then the system will recognize Thursday as a missing punch. Okay, but until then, it's not considered a missing punch. That's why we only see 1 as a missing punch. Okay, so if you guys want to confirm that, we can put in Monday a record real quick. Okay, just to confirm what I say is true. And instead of saying 1, it's going to say 2. Okay, why 2? Because Monday and Tuesday are over already, and they have missing punches. So as you can see, it doesn't say 3, because Thursday is not considered a missing punch. Okay, so now it doesn't matter where you guys are in any of the pages. If you guys want to get back to your dashboard, on the very top here, it says dashboard, so you can actually click on it, and it'll take you back to your dashboard page. Okay, so your exception summary, as I mentioned, your exception summary basically keeps track of your missing punches. Okay, once you guys start to use schedules, it'll start keeping track of absence, tardies, early outs, early ins. Okay, it starts to keep track of those exceptions, but that's until you guys start using schedules. Okay, time off request. The time off request gadget basically tells you, as an admin or supervisor, it tells you how many pending requests you have. Okay, so on here basically tells you, hey, you have 5 pending requests. You guys might be asking, why does it say 5 if we only submitted 1 request? The reason it says 5 is because the employee submitted a whole week off. Okay, which means that the employee submitted 5 different days to be approved. Okay, so basically the system breaks out those requests per day. So you guys can either approve or decline each day. That's why it says 5. Just like the exception summary gadget, you guys can click on it, and it'll redirect you to the page where you guys can approve or decline the request. Okay, the supervisor column here, it basically tells you the supervisor that's supposed to approve those time off requests. Okay, so as an admin, you guys will have obviously access to the whole system and everybody on the system. So this will actually tell you which supervisors are not approving their time off request. Okay, because it's going to tell you, for the test employee, it looks like he has 5 pending requests. As your supervisors and employees start to submit time off requests, it's going to basically start telling you which supervisors are in charge of those requests. Okay, the next gadget over is the attendance accruals. Attendance accruals just gives you your employees' available balance. Okay, I'm not sure if really you guys want to use this gadget, but if you guys do, the way it works is you click on the edit icon here, and you want to highlight everything on there. Okay. The reason you want to highlight everything is because that way it gives you all the balances. Okay. Now, I would probably recommend simply going to attendance accruals so that you guys can see the accrual balances. Because if you guys enable all the accruals here, it's gonna start looking. It's gonna be hard to read, right? Because of all the accruals you guys have on there. Okay. The next one is approval status. Approval status, basically what that does is it basically tells you the employee's approval status. Okay, what that means is you have 4 statuses: open, submit, approved, and payroll. Okay, your employees, when they start punching, they are going to trigger their timesheet to be open. Okay, open means that the employee has some sort of activity going on in their timesheet, whether that be them punching or whether that be them requesting time off and it being approved. Okay, the next one is submit. The submit is the status for the employee submitting their timesheet. Okay, so once your employees start to submit their timesheet, your number count will start to go up. Okay, the next one is approved, and that's for your supervisors. What that means is your supervisors have the ability to approve their employees' timesheets. So that'll basically what will happen is when they approve it, it triggers to approval status. Whether that be the employee's timesheet be at open or submit, when they hit approve, it'll basically trigger it to approved. Okay, and the last one being payroll. Payroll being you guys on the call right now. Okay, payroll means that you guys have either ran the payroll process, which means you guys have locked the timesheet, or you guys have approved an employee's timesheet and you guys manually locked the timesheet. Okay, so the payroll status can be triggered one of 2 ways: you guys running payroll or you guys approving the timesheet yourself. Okay, by default, this gadget will display by current pay period. Okay, so what that means is it's always going to give you the current pay period based on today's date. Alrighty, so let's say, for example, you guys are logged into the system on May the 2nd. Okay, May the 2nd is already considered a new pay period. When you guys look at your approval status, it's going to be the pay period of May 2nd. Okay, so what you guys can change the date range is click on the edit icon here. Okay, there's 1 of 2 ways. You can check this box here. What that box does is it'll always default to the previous pay period. Okay, so when you guys log into the system, that little box there will basically, this gadget will always be displaying the previous pay period. Okay, the good thing about the dashboard is you guys can enable multiple gadgets more than one time. Okay, what that means is I can click on edit setting, I can click on approval status. Okay, so this approval status gadget will be set to current pay period. This one will be set to the previous pay period. Okay, that way you guys can keep track of your employees at all times. Okay, so this gadget will always be set to the previous pay period. This one will always be set to the current. Okay, the exception summary, again, is another gadget that goes by the current pay period. The unfortunate part about this one, it doesn't have that checkbox. So if you guys want to see the exceptions for the previous pay period, you're going to have to either click the little red arrow that points down to the previous pay period, or click on the drop down here to click on the previous pay period. Okay. Okay. There's one other gadget I want to go over with you guys, which is in and out board. In and out board basically tells you the employees that are currently in or out based on their punches. Okay, so based on the employee's punch, it'll tell you if the employee's in or out. So my employee actually punched in right now. If you guys remember a little bit ago, we punched him in. Okay, so it actually says he's currently in. If I go in and I punch out for lunch, it's going to say I'm out based on my punch. Okay, again, this gadget only goes based off employees that are punching. So if your employees don't punch in at all, this gadget won't display them. Okay, even if they are scheduled, it's not going to display them on here because they're not punching. Okay, by default, this gadget will go based off of yesterday and today. The reason it does that is because your employees might be crossing the midnight point, But if you only want it to go based off today only, you can click on Edit, click on the little checkbox that says Today, and it'll always go based off today only. Okay. Okay. So that's basically the dashboard page. Again, the dashboard page is an area where you guys can enable different gadgets to keep track of your employees. Okay. Each user on this call and each user that uses the system can enable/disable any gadgets they want to use or not use. Okay. So each user can basically customize their own dashboard. Okay. So you guys can move around these gadgets, or you guys can get rid of the gadgets by clicking the little icon on the top right where it says a little X. Okay. You can get rid of the gadget. If you want to have the gadget come back, simply click on Edit Setting. Okay. And click on that gadget so it can come back. Okay. So going on to the next tab, which is Attendance Summary. Okay. Attendance Summary tab, basically, the main purpose of this tab is really to open up a timesheet. Okay. If you guys remember earlier, my test employee, he submitted his timesheet by accident. Okay. So if an employee comes up to you and says, "Hey, I submitted my timesheet by accident. Can you reopen it because I can't punch?" You guys would have to go to the Attendance Summary tab. Okay. In the Attendance Summary tab, what you guys would do is you guys would click the drop down on the right-hand side here where it says Timesheet Status, change it from Submit to Open, and then save it. Okay. So that's how you guys would open up a timesheet. So I'm going to go ahead and save it here. Okay. Of course, there's other uses on this page. Okay. You guys can also approve a timesheet. If you guys are going to be approving, you guys can approve it from here as well. Okay. So the way it works is just click the drop down and set it to approved or payroll, depending on which approval you're trying to do. Okay. Other things you guys can do on the summary page is you guys can filter by statuses. Okay. So this might actually come in handy. Okay. So if you guys are going to have your employees submitting their timesheet and your supervisors approving them, you guys can filter by the statuses of the timesheet. So for example, if you guys want to see anybody that's open, you guys would click it open. Basically, the system will give you any employee that has a timesheet that's an open status. Okay. If you guys want to see anybody that's been approved, you guys will click the drop down here, and set the status to approved. Okay. You guys can also search by employee. Because you guys have quite a few employees on the system, you guys can search by them. You guys can either search by name or search by ID, okay, depending on what you guys know. So just go ahead and put their name or ID, hit go here, and the system will search for those employees. Okay. So that's basically a summary page, as I mentioned. The main purpose is to open up a timesheet. Okay, you guys can also filter by what the current timesheet statuses are. And you guys can also see which employees have missing punches. So you guys can click on the missing punch icon here, and it'll filter by the employees that have most missing punches on the top, and then work its way down. Okay. All right. Going on to the next tab, which is timesheet. So the timesheet tab basically, the timesheet tab is basically where you guys can see the employees' punches. Okay, you guys can see the employees' punches. You guys can edit the punches, fix their records, insert new records. Basically fix the whole timesheet that the employee has. Okay, so on the top here, you guys can see that just like the employee, we have the date range. Okay, so just like the employee, we have the date range available to us, so we can change the date range. It works exactly the same as it would as an employee. Okay, on the right-hand side here, we have the approve button. Now, since we are admins, if we hit the approve button, it'll automatically trigger it to payroll status. Okay, that doesn't mean that you guys are sending information to payroll. That's just a status saying, hey, a payroll admin has basically approved this time off request. I'm sorry, this timesheet, not time off request. Okay. So going down below here to the actual timesheet area, we have save, add, delete, undo, time card report, columns, recalculate, and insert repost. Okay. We don't want to worry about copy. Okay, copy. You guys typically will not use. Basically, what it does is it copies the previous paper to the current. Okay, so the very first 5 options here, they're the options you guys probably use on an everyday basis, right? Something that you guys probably use on Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel. Okay, so the save button obviously is a save icon, which means whenever you guys are making changes, whether that be fixing a punch, adding a new record, whatever the change may be, you want to make sure you hit save so the system saves the changes. Okay, the next button is the add button. Now this button here and this button here, add record, do exactly the same thing. Okay, what I mean by that is, let's say for example you guys are adding records manually on here. Okay, see the system only allows you to enter 3 empty records. If you guys run out of room and you guys want to enter more records, simply click on add or add record. They give you empty records to work with, more empty records to work with. Okay, the next button is delete. Now delete will basically get rid of a record for you. Okay, before hitting delete, what you want to do, make sure is that the black arrow on the left hand side here is pointing to the record you want to delete. Okay, if it is, once it is pointing to the right record, go ahead and hit delete and then hit save. Okay, so the record stays deleted. Okay. The next button is undo. Undo will basically undo any changes that you've done before hitting the save button. Okay, the key phrase here is before hitting save. Okay, so this button will only work if you haven't hit saved yet. Okay, once you save, you've basically accepted the changes and the system can't undo that. Okay. Alrighty. So that happens, you can enter the record manually. Of course, if you deleted it, you can enter it manually. Okay. If you added a new record and you saved it, you can get rid of it again. Okay. It just means you can't undo the change you've done. Okay. But if you haven't clicked save yet, for example, I deleted a record right now and I added these 3 records here. Okay. Since I haven't hit save, I can undo my change, and what will happen is that record will come back, and those 3 records will disappear because I never clicked save. I never confirmed my changes. Okay. The next available icon is time card report. So time card report basically allows you to get a printout of the employee's timesheet. Okay. This one basically works on which employee you're currently on right now. So since we are on the test employee, when we hit the time card report, what's going to happen is it's going to give us a printout of this employee. Okay, so basically whatever you guys are currently seeing right now on the timesheet, that's what's going to get printed out, with the exception of the list on the left-hand side and the icons on the top. Okay, with the exception of that, everything else will be printed out. Okay. The next icon is columns. Okay, columns allows you to rearrange the columns or get rid of some columns that you guys might not use. Okay, so the way that works is you guys would actually click on the columns button here, and basically the way your columns are being displayed here is how they're actually being displayed on there. Okay. So what that means is, if they're in the way they're in order here, that's how they're going to be displayed out there. So if you guys want to rearrange the order, what you guys would need to do is, first of all, highlight the column, make sure it's blue. Okay, and then using the red arrows on the top right-hand side, this one will allow you to rearrange the order. Okay. Now, if you simply want to get rid of the column, if you want to get rid of one of the columns, you guys can by clicking on the column again, make sure it's blue, and then using the blue arrows here. Anything under the available items will not display on the timesheet. Okay. The only warning with that is anything that has an asterisk in front of it, okay, cannot be removed. Okay. anything on here can be rearranged. The order can be rearranged. Anything. It's just that anything that has a asterisk cannot be removed. So basically, you can't move pay code to the available items, but you can rearrange where it appears on the timesheet. Okay. Once you're done making your changes, go ahead and hit OK. Okay. The next button over is recalculate. Recalculate basically performs a recalculation of the timesheet that you're currently on. So the way it works is if you feel the calculation is incorrect or we've changed something on the system, go ahead and hit recalculate. The reason you want to hit it is so the system performs a recalculation of the timesheet. Okay. Whether that be you change employee to the new policy or whether that be the employee has a schedule now. Okay, you want to hit recalculate so the system can update those changes. Insert repost. Insert repost allows you to insert punches in between other punches. Now, what I mean by that is, first of all, you need to make sure you're on the right employee before using this icon. Okay, this icon only works on the current employee you're on. So let's take, for example, Monday. Okay, let's say on Monday this employee came in at 7 o'clock and left at 3:30, but he forgot to punch out for lunch and punch back in from lunch. Okay, so typically what will happen is Monday will look like this: 7 to 3:30 with 8.5 hours. Okay, so if you guys want to put in a record in there, if you guys want to put a 12 to 12:30 record, the only way to do it is using the insert repost. Okay, and the reason why is because if you try to add a record on Monday from 12 to 12:30. Okay. Once you save it, you can see that the system says that those records are overlapping. Okay. You guys aren't trying to enter the records in between. You're just simply entering new records. Okay, and that's why the system says we can't do that. It's overlapping. Okay, so what you guys we need to do in this case here is use the insert repost. Okay, once you do that, the first thing is to make sure that the date range you're adding is correct. So we're adding a record, if you guys remember, we're adding a record for Monday the 18th, so Monday the 18th. Now we're not only adding one record, we're adding two punch records. Okay, so we're going to put the first record here, which is 12 p.m., and then we're going to put 12:30 p here because it's 12:30 p.m. Okay. Once we make sure that the date range or the dates are correct and the times are correct, the next step is to go ahead and hit OK. Okay. The system will confirm the changes to make sure that they are correct. If they are, just go ahead and hit OK. And as we can see, the system will go ahead and process the change. Okay, so as we can see now that the system entered 12 to 12:30 in between there, okay, without it giving us an error message. Alrighty, so we see 7 to 12 and then 12:30 to 3:30 equals a total of 8 hours in that day. Okay, so insert repost not only allows you to put punches in between other punches, it also allows you to fix punches. Okay, so you can use insert repost and you can basically fix the punches using this. Okay, all you would need to do is put the missing punches on here, and then once you're done, just hit OK. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, you don't want to use copy. See, if you do copy, it's going to basically copy the previous pay period to the displayed pay period. So you really don't want to use that icon. Okay. So going on to the actual timesheet now, the way you guys, now we're going to go over how to add a record. Okay. The way to add a record, if you guys were noticing when I was adding these records here, the first thing is you need to put in the date. Okay. First of all, select the correct date. Regardless if the date is before this date, for example, if we're trying to add the 20th, you would still be adding the record down here. Once you save it, the system will rearrange the order. Okay. Okay. So once you put the date, select the correct pay code. Okay. Now the difference between these pay codes here is when you guys use work hours, you need to put in and out times. Okay. So let's go ahead and do work hours first. So if you're entering work hours, when entering in and out times, if you simply enter in a number, the system will default to AM. Okay. So if you put 7 and you put 3 here, the system will put 7 a.m. to 3 a.m. Okay. It doesn't know that you mean 7 to 3. Okay, 3 p.m. In order for it to know what you mean, you need to. There's 2 ways to do it. You either put the number 3 and the letter P right after, so it knows it's 3 p.m., or you use military time. Okay. Now, if you put 3:30, all you got to do is do 3:30 p, and the system will take care of the rest. Okay. Same thing if you use military time. Okay. So what I mean by that is you don't need to put the colon, you don't need to put the 0 on the front, you don't need to put PM. Okay. Simply 15:30 p would be enough. Okay. Once you do that, then the last step is to hit save. Okay. So that's how you guys would enter in a work hours record. Okay. You see now that the 20th is above the Thursday. So as soon as you hit save, the system will rearrange the order for you. Okay. So let's go ahead and add a new record for Tuesday. Let's add a vacation record, or PTO. Okay. So when you add PTO or personal time, vacation time, holiday, whatever the case may be, basically any code that only requires amount of hours, the system will not allow you to put in and out times. Okay, as you can see here, I'm trying to click in the in and out column. It doesn't let me. The reason is because it doesn't require that. It simply requires amount of hours. So what you would do is you would go to the right-hand side where it says REG or regular and put in the amount of hours you want to put for this record. Okay. So we're going to put 7 here. Okay. Once you're done, again, just go ahead and hit save. Okay. So that's how your PTO one will work. That's how your holiday, vacation, jury duty, bereavement, all those other codes, that's how they will work. Okay. If you can see, you can edit the amount of hours. The good thing about this is the system locks you out from the overtime codes. So you can't accidentally put 4 hours of overtime of PTO because the system won't allow you to do that. Okay. It will simply allow you to put it in the regular hours column. Okay, so that's how you guys would fix the PTO. That's how you guys would enter in a work hours or PTO record. If we go to the right-hand side here, we do have your groups. Okay, you guys can change your employees' groups as to where they work in. So if they do work in different groups, you guys would simply, let's say, for example, from 7 to 12, this employee worked in dental. And then from 12:30, when he came back, you guys sent him to the laboratory. You guys can do that and then save that. Okay. When you guys run payroll, the system will basically send 5 hours of dental and 3 hours of laboratory. Okay. So that's how you guys would change the group values. As of right now, your groups are not named. Okay. But they are on there. Okay. Alrighty. So that's basically the timesheet area. I'm going to go down to the summaries real quick. We did cover the timesheet summary and the accrual summary, so we're not going to spend much time on there. As I mentioned earlier, the timesheet summary breaks out per pay code. Okay, so now that we have another pay code on our timesheet, it appears down here. Okay. Again, with the accrual summary, it gives you the available balance along with the most recent transaction. So the most recent transaction being 4 hours of PTO on the 19th, okay, which is right here. Okay. The last one we didn't go over that the employees don't have access to is your pay matrix summary. Pay matrix summary, basically what it does is this is only used for those employees that are belonging to pay policy 4, which are your customer service employees. Okay. They receive a weekend differential. So if they are a customer service employee and they belong to that policy, so if they belong to policy number 4, you will see the differential appear down here. Okay, so pay matrix summary would only be useful for those employees. Alrighty. So with that being said, on the left-hand side here, you guys can search by employee. So again, the search icon works with either the employee ID or the employee name. Okay. All right. Moving on to the next tab, which is accruals. The accruals tab, there's nothing different between the employee and the admin account. The only difference is that you guys have ability to see other employees' accrual history. And this is another important one. There's a sub tab for you guys, management. Okay. Management tab basically gives you the ability to enter in a balance. Okay, or add on top of a balance or take away from a balance. Okay. Now, for example, vacation, personal, and sick, those are balances that you guys are going to be entering or giving me to, import. So the way it works is the management tab allows you to add on to a balance or take away from a balance. Okay. So let's go ahead and click. First of all, in order for this to work, make sure you're on the right pay code. Okay. So I'm going to pick PTO. Okay. As of right now, I have 96 hours. If I want to add to that balance, what I would do is I would click on new. Okay. First things first is pick the correct date. Okay. As of what date are you adding this balance or, putting a negative balance on? So I'm going to put as of April 5th. Okay. Now the accrual hours, this is where you either put a negative amount or you put a positive amount. Okay. If I put 20 hours, what it's going to do is it's going to add 20 hours to the balance he has. So instead of having 100 hours as a 4-1, as a 4-5, he's going to have 120 hours. Okay, because it's going to add on top of the 100 hours. When the 19th comes around, it's going to take away 8 hours, so it's going to give me a balance of 112. Okay, that's assuming you put a positive amount. If you put a negative amount, it will take away 20 hours from his PTO as of the 5th. So as of the 1st, he has 100 hours. When the 5th comes around, he's going to have 80 hours because the negative 20 will basically take away 20 hours for him. Okay. Once you do that, once you enter in the date, the correct amount of hours you're adding or subtracting, you have the ability to put in the note. Okay. The notes is optional. You don't have to do that. We do recommend putting it on there so you guys can, know why that change was made. Once you do that, go ahead and hit save. Okay. So you see on here, as a 4-1, I have 100. On 4-5, it took away 20 hours, so I have 80. And then on 4-19, I used 4 hours, so my new balance is 76. Okay, so this tab here, it doesn't override the balance that adds on top of it or takes away from that balance. Okay. Going on to the history tab. The history tab basically gives you the full history of the employee. So we're not really going to cover this area since we did cover it on the employee portion. Okay, we did go through the 4 tabs here. The only thing I wanted to show you guys is on the 19th, we have multiple pay codes. So you see now it's grayed out. Okay, so it's gray. If you go to the monthly calendar, it'll tell you that on the 19th you use PTO and work hours. Okay. The only difference between the employee and the admin account is the list on the left-hand side. You guys as admins have access to all the employees, so you guys can click on the employee you guys want to go to. Okay. And then going to the last tab under the attendance tab is the in and outboard tab. The in and outboard tab basically, it's like the gadget, but it's expanded. Okay. So it works just like the gadget on the dashboard page. It tells you the employees that are currently in or out, okay, and it basically tells you their last punch. Okay, so the in and outboard gadget just expands the gadget a little bit more for you guys to view it easily. Alrighty, and that's basically the attendance tab. We're gonna go on to the scheduler tab now. Okay. The scheduler tab is where you guys can build schedules if you guys are going to be using schedules, and also where you guys will be approving and declining time off requests. Okay, so just to quickly give you guys a brief overview of how you guys will be building schedules, if you guys are, okay, the way it works is you need to first create your templates. Okay, so in the template schedulers tab, you need to first create templates that you guys are going to be using. Templates are, for example, 7 to 3, 7 to 11, 8 to 4, 9 to 5. Those are templates right? Basically, start and end times, specific start and end times. Okay. So the way it works is you click on add/maintain templates. Okay. Once you do that, the system's going to pop up a different window. Okay. In this window, the very first thing is to pick the pay code. Okay. Obviously, the pay code is going to be work hours because you're basically scheduling them to work. Okay. The next thing is for the group 3, I would recommend just setting it to default. Okay. The reason you want to set it to default is if you guys pick a specific group, what that means is when you guys schedule the employee, when you guys use this template, you're scheduling him to work in that specific group, which means whenever he punches, the system's going to automatically punch him into that group, right? So that's why we recommend leaving it on default so that the employee always clocks into the default home value he belongs to. Okay. The next step is to put the start and end time. The start and end time of this template. So let's say the start time is 7 o'clock and the end time is 15:30, which is 3:30 p.m. Okay, with a meal of 30 minutes. Okay, once you do that, go ahead and hit save. Okay, I'm going to build a new one real quick. So besides this one, I'm going to build another one. Okay, work hours, default, 8, 4:30, 30 minutes. Okay, once you do that, go ahead and hit exit. Okay, in order for you guys to use your templates, you guys would click on Insert Templates. Okay, click on More, Work Hours, Default Group, 7 to 3:30, and then basically what you're doing is you're bringing out the templates you created. Okay, save templates, and there we go. Okay, the reason you want to bring them out is because it's easier to basically use them. Okay, so now the way you use them is you click on the template once, okay, and then click on the day you want to schedule him for. Okay, so my test employee is scheduled Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 7 to 3:30. Okay, now if you want to use the other template, click on the other template. Okay, and Monday and Friday he's scheduled 8 to 4:30. Save it. Okay, so when you're saving the schedule, you're gonna go to the very top and save. Okay. And that's basically how you guys will be creating schedules, if you guys are. Okay. There are some how-to videos and also some documentation on how to do this. So I'll be providing that information as well. Okay. Going on to the next tab, which is freeform. Okay. Going on to the next tab is a freeform tab. The freeform tab, basically what it does is it allows you to change a specific start or end time for one of the schedules. Okay. You typically want to use the template schedules to be creating schedules for your employees. The freeform, you only want to use it when you want to change a specific start or end time. Okay. So let's say, for example, you created the schedule. An employee sees the schedule and says, hey, on Friday, I can't come in at 8. Can I come in at 9 because I have something to do? If you want to just quickly change that time, go to the freeform, put 9 so I can know it's 9 in the morning, and then save it. Basically, freeform allows you to change the start or end times quickly so that way you don't have to be creating templates for those specific instances. Okay, so this employee schedule changed on Friday the 22nd from 8 to 9 o'clock. Okay. Going on to the last tab, which is request. Okay, so the request tab is basically where you guys will be approving and declining requests. Okay, we have 4 sub-tabs. We have overview, summary, detail, and calendar. The first being overview, which basically breaks up by groups. So what it does is it basically tells you how many employees belong to each group. Okay, based on that, how many pending, approved, declined, and so forth do we have per basically per group. Okay, so it looks like for none we have 1 employee and we have 5 pending requests. Okay. Basically, my recommendation when you guys come to the scheduler request area, simply go to the detail part. Okay. The detail part is where you guys would basically see the whole request. You guys would basically approve and decline it from there. You'll be able to see when they requested the time off and how many hours they requested. Okay. Overview and summary, it's just, overview information and summary information. You really can't do anything with it. So just to go into the summary page real quick, it gives you the employee at least and how many hours he has available, but it doesn't tell you what day and how many hours he's asking for off. Okay. So like I said, my recommendation is, jump straight into the detail part because the detail gives you all the information you guys need. Okay. So in the detail part, you guys can search by employee. So you can search by employee name or employee ID. If you guys want to approve or decline a specific employee right away. Okay. Pay cycle. Typically, you don't want to move the pay cycle. Okay. Pay cycle is left to NA for a reason. The reason it's set to NA is so that you guys can pick a specific date range. Okay. The good thing about this date range is it can be up to 1 year. Okay. What that means is you guys can put 4/1/2016 to 4/1/2017. Okay. So basically, what that means is you guys will get any requests within that date range. Okay. So any days that employees are asking for between that date range, you guys will be able to see them. Okay. Date selection, which is the next one here. Date selection, again, you don't want to move it. You want to leave it at user-defined date range because that one you can put up to 1 year. If you move it to any of the other ones, it'll basically give you the maximum is 2 weeks at a time. Okay. Approve selected and approve all. We'll jump back to those in a few seconds here. Okay. The status here is pending. By default, the system will set it to pending, so you guys can see all pending time off request. Okay. If you guys want to see approved or declined ones or even canceled, you guys can select that specific status and it'll show you those requests. Okay. Pay code, you can pick a specific pay code. As of right now, the employee only submitted PTO, so the only thing available is PTO. But once your employee starts selecting vacation, sick, personal, okay, you'll start having that in the drop down available. Okay. The next filter over is group. So you guys can pick a specific group you want to filter by if you guys are doing that. So let's say, for example, you click group 1, you can pick a specific group. So for example, if you pick laboratory, anybody that belongs to laboratory will appear here. Okay, assuming if they requested time off. All right. And then the last filter being supervisor. This one goes by the supervisors that need to approve time off. So it's only going to display supervisors that have employees that submitted time off requests. Okay. So now going into the actual request area here, as you can see, this system gives you the employee that submitted the request, and it tells you which pay code they used, what day are they asking for off, so which days do they want off, and then how many hours do they want per day. Okay, how many hours do they have available? Okay, and then when did they submit this request? Okay, the last three columns are really not that important. It's just going to give you the default group the employee belongs to. And then the start and end time, that would be used if your employees had the ability to select the start and end time for the request, basically a reference time. Okay. Now, going back to these two options here, this checkbox here works hand in hand with approved selected. Okay. So basically anything that's been checked off, if you hit this icon here, will be automatically approved for you. Okay. The way this one works, approve all, is let's say, for example, you guys have 10 pages of requests and you guys are on page 6. Okay. If you guys hit this icon here, approve all, it's going to approve anybody on page 6. Okay. Now going on to the next statuses here, you guys can also approve from this status icon. Okay, so the way it works is you click on pending, you click the drop down, and you hit approved, hit OK. And for this one, we're going to actually decline it. Okay, so you guys can approve it or decline it from the status here. Okay, the only way to decline it is from clicking it here. Okay, but from approving it, you can do it this way: click the little checkbox or use approve all. Okay. Um, so the way it works is you hit on the status. Okay, you click the drop down and click on the status you want to set it to. Once you do that, go ahead and hit save. Okay, those requests have disappeared, and the reason they disappeared is because they are no longer pending. Okay, so that's how you guys would approve or decline a request. Going on to the last tab is calendar. Okay, the calendar breaks out the request and it color codes them for you based on their approval status. So anything in green has been approved, anything in red has been declined, anything in yellow is still pending. Okay, so what that means, anything, it gives you access to the employees you have access to. So as admins, obviously this calendar is going to be filled up for you guys. As a supervisor, it's only going to be filled up if my employees are submitting time off requests. Okay. The good thing about this calendar, it breaks out per month, and you guys can uncheck. For example, if you only want to see approved, you can uncheck the other two, and it'll show you only approved. Same thing with pending. If you only want to see pending, just leave pending checked off. Okay. If you guys want to print out the calendar, there's a print icon on the top left here. Go ahead and click on it here, and the system will give you a printout. Okay. Going on to the next tab is the Employees tab. Okay. The Employees tab is very important for you guys, and the reason it's important is because not everything gets filled out for your employees, right? Not everything flows over from Avesis. There are some areas you guys do need to maintain on our system for your employees, okay? And those areas are, first of all, Access Group, okay? Access Group, the main thing it controls is which Access Group, which time zone is your employee currently on, okay? Is he on Arizona? Is he on Central Time? Is he on Eastern, Mountain, or Pacific? Okay. You always want to make sure you select the right one for your employees. The next areas are your payrolls area. Okay. The four things you want to maintain on here are pay policy, pay category, shift number, and holiday rule. Okay. The bottom two, which is pay type and pay method, those automatically flow over from Avesis, so those two you don't need to worry about. Okay. Pay policy basically controls one main thing is their overtime rules. Okay, if they are a basic hourly employee, basically they're in Arizona or they're in something other than California, you want to set them to the basic hourly policy. Okay, if they are a California employee, you want to send them to the California hourly policy because California does have different overtime rules. Okay. And if they are a customer service employee, make sure you send them to the CSR hourly policy. This policy basically controls the differential. Okay. So if they're assigned to this policy, they qualify for that weekend differential. Okay. Shift number, you don't really have to worry about it. There's only one option on there, so it'll automatically be checked out for you. Okay. Pay category. The main thing it controls is accruals. Okay, so this one actually controls your guys' accrual roles, so which accruals your employees are assigned to. So just make sure you guys select the right accrual role for the employee. Okay, and then the last one being holiday rule. This one controls which holiday role your employee is assigned to. Okay, 1 and 2 is your basic holiday hourly rule. Okay. Number 3 is no pay. Number 4 is a holiday schedule hours, which means your employee is going to be getting holiday hours based on the schedule they're assigned to. Okay. The holiday before and these two rules here, that's basically if they're assigned to this rule, that means that the employee must work the schedule day before and after in order for him to get the 8 or 10 hours based on the one you assign him to. Okay, and then your 4-hour holiday is for your 4-hour employees that get 4 hours. So if they're a part-time employee, they should get 4 hours. You want to sign up to this rule. Okay. Other than that, once you guys are done making the changes, go ahead and hit save so the system can save the changes, okay, and apply them. Okay. Those are the only, again, those are the 5 things you guys need to maintain on here. Everything else will flow over from a sentence. Okay. Going on to the next tab is a personal tab. Personal tab just gives you personal information. There's nothing you guys have to do on this tab here. Okay. Nothing you guys need to maintain. Nothing you guys need to change. This one's just available so you guys can see your employees, email address, phone number, and so forth. Okay. Going on to the reports tab. The reports tab we're not really going to cover on today's call, and the reason we're not is because the reports tab is actually its own training session. Okay, the reports tab is a fairly large area to cover. Okay, so in order for you guys to learn the reports tab, there are going to be some videos available for you guys. So there's a webinar you guys can join also on the reports, which cover how do the reports work, how to run a report, how to save a report. Okay, I will be providing some short videos as well that you guys can use to learn the reports. As I mentioned, there are some live webinars you guys can join where one of our techs goes over the reports tab and you guys can ask them questions. Okay, but just to give you guys a brief overview of the reports and how they work. First of all, you want to click on the report template here. Okay, you go to the overview section. The overview section is basically gives you a brief description of each report under that template. Okay, once you find a report that suits what you're looking for, go ahead and click on the report. You will be taken to the properties section. In the properties section is where you set up your filters. Basically, in the filter area is how you set up how you want the report to run, which employees you want to run it for, which data you want to see, which date range you want to see it for. Okay. Once you're done setting that up, you go ahead and hit the preview button. Okay. The preview button is basically you guys previewing the report. So once you click on it, you can either print out the report, save it. Okay. If you guys don't like how the report looks, you can always go back to the property section and mess with the filters here. Okay. The last tab under here is the stored reports area. Stored reports can be a little confusing. Okay. It's actually used for reports that are actually fairly large. Okay. What I mean by that is, let's say, for example, you guys want to run a report for a whole year. Okay. If the system determines it needs additional time to run, it's going to notify you. It's going to say, hey, we need additional time to run this report. Once we're done, we'll email you so you can come back to the report section. Under the stored reports, that's where your report will be found. Okay. So that's the stored reports area. Basically, it's reports that needed additional time to run. Okay. I'm going to skip over the user setup area real quick. We're going to come back to it. I want to go into the company setup area. Company setup, you have 2 tabs. You have groups and holidays. Okay. Groups is there so you guys can see which groups are in the system for you guys to use. Okay. So you guys can see this is all the groups here. So for group 1, you have group 2 and group 3. Okay. In the properties area, you guys can see the groups that are created. You guys can also create new groups. Okay. Typically, the only reason you guys would be creating new groups on here is if it's not flowing over from a census, and the only reason your groups would not flow over is if the group is not assigned to an employee as a default. So if the group is not an employee's default value, it's not going to appear on here, so you guys will most likely have to create it. Okay. Going on to the next tab is the holidays. So on here, you guys would basically it's the maintenance of your holidays. Okay. So this is where you guys would create new holidays on the system. You guys would have to be creating each holiday as it comes, or you guys can create them in advance, right? Basically, each holiday that you guys observe, you guys would need to create. So every New Year's Day, every 4th of July, every Christmas, you guys basically need to put it on here. Okay. So the way you guys would do that is you guys would click on New. Okay. Put in the date of the holiday, so the actual day. So for example, I'm going to use May 30th as Labor Day. I'm sorry, Memorial Day. You guys will put it on here. You guys will put a brief title. Once you do that, you guys would hit save. Okay. Now that you just created Memorial Day for 2016, you still need to create it for 2017, 2018, and so forth. Okay. So that's what I mean by creating the holidays. So you guys can go in here and create the future holidays. You guys can create them up all the way to 2020. Okay. And even further. Okay, I'm just putting this as an example. You guys need to create the holiday so the system knows when a holiday comes around, which hours it should pay out. Okay, going on to the next tab is the rules setup tab. We're not really going to go into this area in detail. It's available for you guys to see what's been created on the system. Okay, so I gave you guys access to this page so you guys can see all the rules that are on the system. So you guys can see all the policies I've created for you guys. Okay, all the holiday rules I've created, all the accrual rules that have been created. Okay, so you guys can see them. You guys also have the ability to change them. So do be careful if you guys are going to make changes. Okay, that change does affect a lot of your employees. So when you guys make a change, what I would recommend, our recommendation here is when you guys need to make a change, give us a call so we can tell you if that change will do exactly what you're looking for, or you know, if you guys are looking for a change, what is it that you guys want to do, and we'll tell you exactly what needs to be changed. Okay, and the last tab being payroll. This tab we're not going to really go into. This tab we will cover it when you guys are actually going to process your payroll. Okay, we'll be on a call together, so I'll be walking you guys through how to do that, and that's when we will cover this area. Okay, so going back to the tab we skipped over is the user setup, and this is actually the last tab in the system. The user setup tab is basically where your users are housed. Okay, so by users we mean supervisors and admins. Okay, so on the system, the way you guys would create a new user, you guys would hit on the new icon here. Okay, once you do that, you put in the username. Okay, typically for usernames, we recommend using their employee ID. Okay, and the reason we recommend that is because that's the ID that Avesis knows on that side. Okay, so for example, let's take for example. Let's take this person here, Aaron. Okay, let's say Aaron was a payroll admin. Okay, what you guys would need to do is you guys would put in the username would be his employee ID. So his employee ID is 11183. Okay, so his username must match his employee ID. Okay, after that, of course, his full name is Aaron Aguirre. Okay, for password, just use a dummy password. Okay, since your employees are going to be logging through Avesis self-service, you don't need to create the password on here. Okay, I'm sorry, you don't need to give them a password. Okay, you do need to create one so the system saves the user, but you don't need to provide them that password. Okay, so just go ahead and create a dummy password whenever creating a new user. You would put test, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's usually the dummy password I use. Okay. Okay. Once you do that, the user employee is very important. Okay, and the reason it's important is because it controls that drop down. Okay, without this section being filled out, this employee will not have that drop down. Okay, which means he will not have access to his admin account. Okay, so if you don't link his admin account to his employee account, he will basically never have the ability to get to his admin account. Okay, so user employee basically provides that bridge. Okay, so that's where you guys are creating that bridge. So once you do that, you hit OK. The last step is to pick an access group. So you click the drop down here and basically select is he a payroll admin or is he a supervisor. Okay, so once you do that, I'm going to set him as a supervisor. You go ahead and hit save. Alrighty. There is one more step. Okay. Of course, in the info area here, you need to put in the email address, and the reason you want to put in email is because when his employees submit time off requests, the system will look for that email address. So if he doesn't have one, he will never receive an email. Okay, so you always want to make sure you put the email on there so the system knows who to send the emails to when this particular employees submit his request. Okay, and then the last step is to click on employees. The employees is where you give him access to employees. So now that you created a user, you need to give him access to employees. Okay, there's 4 different options you guys can use. The first option is all employees. Obviously, the name is pretty self-explanatory. If you select that, this user will have access to all employees. Okay. The next one is manually select. Manually select basically is if you select that option, you actually are hand-picking employees for this particular user. So you actually pick employees for him. Okay. So when you do this, this list never changes, okay, unless you come in and change it. So when you pick users for him or employees, let's say you pick these 4 employees, this user will always have access to those 4 employees, and that will never change unless you come in here and change this, okay? That's the manually select. Group filter, you can give this user access to employees by the group. So the way it works is you pick group filter, and you pick on which group you want to use. Let's say, for example, you guys want to use group 1. Okay. When you do that, the system will open up a different window. Okay. In this window, you select which group he has access to. Okay. What that means is, let's say, for example, you give him vision. Okay. What that means is that this user has access to any employee that belongs to vision. Okay. Any employee that their home value is vision, this user will have access to. Okay. And then the last filter is assigned to. Okay. Assigned to is probably what you guys are going to be using. Assigned to uses the filter, the employee assignment that comes from Avesis. Okay. So if you guys want to use that assignment, you guys would select assigned to. And what you guys would do is you guys would look for that user in here. Okay. So let's say, for example, let's pretend this was Russell Rice. Okay, let's pretend this was actually Russell Rice and not Aaron Aguirre. Okay, so what you guys would do is you guys would select Russell Rice. Basically, what you're doing is you select it, you move them to the right-hand side. Okay, what you're doing is you're telling the system anybody that belongs to Russell Rice can see. Okay, so again, this filter here uses an assignment that's coming from Avesis, which is probably what you guys are going to use. So just move over the user's name to the right-hand side. And the very last thing is uncheck this box. Okay, the reason you want to uncheck it is because you don't want these particular users to see any employee that's unassigned. Okay, you only want this user to see employees that are assigned to himself. Okay. So that basically covers the user setup area. Now, to get rid of a user real quick, we go back to the overview section, hit delete. Okay, the system will open up a new window. All you do is select the user you want to delete. Okay, and hit OK. Okay, that's how you guys will delete a user from the system, so they no longer have access to admin or supervisor rights. Okay, and that basically covers the training. As I mentioned, I will be providing some videos and some documentation on the system, so go ahead and wait for those. I will be sending them over. This wraps up the admin training video. Okay, thank you guys for taking the time. As I mentioned, I will be sending out some documentation.